Afternoon, it's Wednesday, February 12th, 1 o'clock, and we are gathered here this morning from Department of Human Resources. So welcome, and we've already gone around and introduced ourselves correctly, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. I'm Beth Pastigi, the Commissioner of the Department of Human Resources. And with me here is Harold Schwartz. He's the Director of Operations for HR, and Harmony Wilder is our budget person in the Agency of Administration. And also, I'm not sure as we may have some folks joining online as well. No, I think we're all, I think this is the group. So we do have, I've said, I think two things, our budget book, as well as a link to our workforce report in your, should be hopefully in your materials. And I do have I'll just dig right into the workforce report. Some of you may be familiar with this report, others may not, and I'll be referring to it through my presentation. I do have a paper, printed out copy for the committee.
Okay.
But I'll get to some things in that later in my presentation, but you may want to pull that up at some point because
It'll be, maybe it's even posted just now, looks like not yet.
okay.
But we will.
Okay. All right. So just kind of opening up our budget book, if you would want to follow along, the Department of Human Resources, our vision is to provide a professional human resources team, providing continuous and superior service to our most important asset, which is our people, our state employees. We partner with agencies and departments to create and retain an engaged, motivated, and inclusive workforce. Within DHR, we have our name of our strategic plan is called One HR, and our One HR pillars are break down silos, build up people, maintain organizational effectiveness, and build an inclusive and engaged workforce. And with that, we have guiding principles, serve every employee, coworker, and member of the public with respect and dignity, maintain a forward-thinking perspective that's agile, adaptable, and innovative. We seek to attract and retain an engaged, diverse workforce, cultivating an inclusive environment in which all employees feel they belong. Communicate with employees and colleagues, clarity, respect, and candor. Ensure that our processes are efficient, people-centric, documented, accessible, consistent with employment and labor laws and collective bargaining agreements, and collaborate with others to learn, improve, and solve problems. So this kind of first page is, that's actually was a lot of work and time put into creating our guiding principles. It was a department-wide effort, starting out with listening sessions. And that is the result. And that's really what our mantra is, and then what we're looking for just within our own workforce in HR and across state government. The Department of Human Resources, we are an internal service organization. So we provide anything that you would think of as HR to the state workforce, and some things we also support the legislative and the judicial branches as well. So we support your branch and the judicial branch with their payroll system, our reporting, those items. Also, you may have access to the learning management system, which you can take online trainings with. I don't know if you've used that. We do your paychecks. So, just remember that. Remember that. It's important to fund those people that are making all that happen. We also, just as far as kind of the structure of the department, we have our VTHR operations, which is the name of the system that we use for payroll and human resources information system. So that's one of our divisions. We have a labor relations division. They negotiate our collective bargaining agreements and deal with all employee matters related to labor. We have our field operations staff, and they're what you might typically think in any organization is HR. They have They are assigned agencies and departments, and their teams help support them in every aspect of HR. We have our talent acquisitions team that does recruitment, basically recruitment for the executive branch. We have classification and position management. I'll talk a little bit more about classification later. We manage the employee benefits. So we bid out the healthcare contracts and a bunch of other insurance contracts to provide our employees with modern and benefits that make their employment package attractive. We have a leave management unit, so we manage the federal and state family medical leave laws. And we have a legal unit and investigation unit where they primarily focus on managing employee misconduct process. We have our training center called CAPS, and that's up at on the old Vermont College campus. So we have statewide training and engagement where we do in-person training, online training, and I think that's nice. We have a reporting team that provides lots of information. So you can see that in the workforce report. That's else. Oh, our employee wellness team. So we have, that's a really great program, and it's really all about having employees with a healthy lifestyle. I think that's our group. I hope I didn't miss anybody. You want to look at the summary and highlights? It's the page that has the pie chart. Well, yes, page 5. Thank you. I printed mine out where the page numbers are on there. Oh, and Holly Front is online as well.
Did you need me to share the presentation, Commissioner?
Sure, if you're able to do that, Holly, that would be fantastic. Thank you. And on that pie chart, you can see that this is how we are dividing up our funding sources, but we are primarily internal service funded. So that means we mostly build back other departments for the work we're doing. A small portion of general fund, 10%, special funds, very small, and internal department transfers. So within DHR and outside of HR, we are requesting a 9% budget increase for fiscal year 26. 3/4 of the total increase is due to salary and benefits costs. And the remainder is due to various increases in operational expenses. We have six exempt employees and 104 classified employees. And more than 70% of our budget is the cost of personnel. A couple of big initiatives we're working on. The first one is the paid family medical leave insurance program. That program is a 3-phase program. We launched that in July of 2023, and that provided family and medical leave insurance to our state employees. From there, we worked along with the Department of Financial Regulation to launch, and the vendor is the Hartford, launched that program for businesses and employers across the state. So they can now purchase, that product is available for employers to purchase across the state. That was effective July 1st, 2024. And then next summer, that product will be available for individuals across the state.
Commissioner, on the voluntary family leave program, do we know what the interest or participation has been from private employers?
Yeah, I do. Oh, I printed it out and left it at the printer. So I'm just going to go off the top of my head. We have about it's a little over 50, I think, cases sold. So the Hartford has 50
employers.
50 employers that are participating. The average size of employer is about 11 to 12 that are participating in the program. So over between maybe 400 and 500 plus actual employees are covered under that plan in addition to our state employees. In the fall, we participated in lots of webinars through various business organizations, chambers of commerce, Society of Human Resources, to get the information out there about the program. I think the Hartford has been quite pleased with the progress. It's a promising launch. I think most folks who are doing it launched it in their employees. January 1st is when they were offering it. So I expect probably now a bit of a sales slowdown until like the summer, and then next fall will come up again. But it's
I appreciate that. And I suspect there's a number of larger employers that are already doing something, so they wouldn't have to maybe participate in the state's plan.
It's
But, New Hampshire, if I remember, was already doing something similar to this. Any idea what your experience of participation from the private sector has been?
I don't. I know that they launched that for, they launched it all at once. So they launched it for businesses and individuals all at once, I think in 2023, but I don't have the numbers there.
Okay.
So I don't know how many businesses are participating in it.
Okay, and I don't want to get sidelined, it's just,
Yeah.
if I don't ask it now,
It is a voluntary program. I mean, we've seen interest from national employers that want to provide a product for their employees that are in Vermont. We've seen, a lot of small employers, wanting to be able to provide a benefit, but didn't have a way to do that. So we've seen interest from large and small employers alike. And I think that it's been a really exciting project and pretty kind of amazing. This is really kind of the first of its kind effort, and a lot of other states that don't have mandatory programs are kind of looking at this model as a way to be able to have a product available, because that, particularly, I know in Vermont, but other states too, the number of eligible people that are available to work in the workforce is dwindling, and attracting and retaining employees is important, and benefits are one of the ways to differentiate. So being able to say that you offer a family leave benefit for employees that's affordable to the employer, I think many employers are seeing that as a real boost in what they can offer.
Sure, no, I'm good.
Okay, Rep. Yakavani.
How does a voluntary program avoid adverse selection?
So that's something that the Department of Financial Regulation looks at a lot too, as well, because they want the product to be solvent. So in filing their rates, which the individual rates aren't in there yet, but I mean, that's one of the things that the actuaries at the insurance companies look at. They look at that, and so it's.
And sometimes there's a waiting period before the benefit goes into place. So you can't just get it immediately.
How about our state employees? How many of our own employees have chosen to select it?
Oh, for our state employees, it's not voluntary. All our employees are participating in the
All of them
program.
are included. Yeah.
All of them, yes, all
We
of
pay
them.
the cost.
We pay the cost, and
What is that? Do you know? Is it?
it's about $2 million a year, Harold. I
Yeah,
think it's about $2 million a year that we pay. That's our premium. And again, I'm happy to provide you statistics around that.
Thank you.
I failed to go to the printer and do my notes on that, fortunately, sorry. But it's a really good option for our employees, because while we do have good leave, so we have our employees get annual leave, which is what you would consider a typical vacation, and sick leave. Especially for new employees, they don't, if something happens, they don't always have that kind of in the bank. So to have that benefit has been extremely helpful, and just have another way. And another thing about this program is that So there's the family leave component where people can use it for taking care of family members or bonding with infants. The medical component, when you look at like typical short-term disability programs, those are you're either out or you're in. This program is, so let's say you had a medical condition where you needed to go to the doctor or the hospital like 3 times a week. You can, and you didn't have any leave needs for that, you can use that as intermittent leave in this program, which is different than a more short-term disability programs typically. 2 other big projects. One is our enterprise resource planning, ERP project. That from DHR's perspective, that is a replacement of our human capital management system, what we call VTHR. Other parts of that project are our vision system, which is the state's accounting system, as well as the Vantage budgeting system. So that is a statewide enterprise effort to upgrade all of those back office systems and have them all on one platform. Our system is going first. We expect that to be a 2-year implementation, and we just started that. So we're just starting the very initial phases of that system upgrade. And then the final big project, and we've been working on this for a long time, but this year you will actually see an appropriation request in the big bill, is our classification system modernization. There's $1.575 million in the big bill allocated for that project. Just a little bit about our current classification system. In the workforce report, and that's one of the things you can see on page 58, table 57, there's kind of a summary of what happens with the classification each year, but the annualized cost of reclassification, it's unpredictable. So between 2.1 million and 7.1 million dollars over the past 5 years, varying year to year, we did 1,124 class reviews affecting 1,187 employees. Over the past year, our system was implemented in the 1980s. It's really a workbook, a tool that we follow and slot employees in based on their skills, knowledge. What are the 4 categories? There's 4 different categories that we look at, and and the way our system works, management can request a reclassification, or the employees can request that. And it's very intertwined with our collective bargaining agreements. And we're actually, over the past several years, we've learned that we've got a lot of our compensation is actually in the classification bucket, and classification really shouldn't be used as a way to increase compensation. So if employees doing a new job, you should promote them to a new job, shouldn't necessarily be a reclassification. And if there's a problem with compensation, you should look at that separately. And you need to look at the market and what the market, how the market works for those particular jobs. And we have ways to address that, but we haven't used those as frequently as we are doing today and as we should be using.
So Rep. Harrison and then Rep. Bush.
So I don't totally understand the reclassification system. And
Yeah.
I know, part of this is to upgrade to a hopefully a better system going forward.
Yep.
But when you do reclassifications, and you have somewhat similar qualifications for positions or jobs within different parts of state government, do you look at it as just that specific area, or do you look at it across state government? And I ask this because, without getting into details, one of my budget areas has a significant budget increase request because jobs with similar training in another unit of state government got reclassified and put them ahead of what their folks were at. and it's causing significant morale issues. And this is in the law enforcement area. So, and I guess it happened in a couple different areas of state government.
And that happens all the time. So a modern system will look at the, we should be doing is we should be looking across state government, equal work in one department should be classified the same as the same work in another department. Things should be looked at periodically to make sure we're doing it right. And you also need to look at how each job class vertically works in an agency or department. And that's a type of a system that we are looking to move towards. Our system now mostly looks at jobs individually, and you get points for certain things, and the points translate to your pay grade. And it's not, while it's equitable in the sense that everyone's being rated using the same tool, it's not done consistently at the same time. So when you're talking about the law enforcement, if the law enforcement folks in one department were reclassified and the ones in another one weren't, and they're essentially doing the same work, they're not going to see it as fair. So you see this constant, and as I said, if you look in the workforce report, you can see over the years, like the number of class reviews, and we do them. When you do a class review, you're doing the whole job class. So that can have a significant impact on the department, and it can be not planned in the budget because while management can request it, the employees can also request it. So if an employee says like, this isn't equitable, these people are making more over here, you should look at our jobs too. We should be looking at jobs consistently across state government doing the same work at the same time. And that's not necessarily an issue with our system. It's also a process issue. And we've been doing it this way for a long time. And a lot of that process is intertwined with our collective bargaining agreements. It's time to kind of relook at everything. And that's why we need to have a consultant to come in and assist us to find out what system will work best. We are definitely behind other states and public entities in how we do classification. And then whatever we implement, how that translates to pay, that is all bargainable. Anything that's affecting compensation, we need to bargain that. So it's a long-term project, but we need to get started on it, and we've been anxious to get started on it for a long time. We're excited that the governor has put money in for us to get moving. So hopefully you support that request.
So you're looking to build an automated system for it. I just came out of Pennsylvania a few years ago, worked for the Pennsylvania Game Commission, and as a director, I was responsible for doing a lot of these things, and it was all pretty much all online.
Yeah, there's no online with our system. It's all, it's a workbook that we work through, and then how it translates to pay is really in policy and collective bargaining agreements.
Because I'd write job descriptions and job duties, job requirements would have to fit in with the state's classification system, and there were guidelines and rules for doing that. But that's what you're heading for.
Something similar, yes. So we don't know exactly what it will look like, but we may want to do a little consulting with you on the side to help us.
There's people down there.
Yeah.
So you could
Yeah.
see the system down there and how it works. I learned how to do it pretty well.
Right.
People.
Cool. Well, that's great. It's great that also I know that Representative Iacaroni will also have some familiarity with the system, but to someone who has never worked in government, this whole area seems quite strange. Generally, with pay, it's how you bargain it, and then I'm not saying what the organization can afford, but there's not as much of a focus on the actual tool that you're using, and especially in public service, it's really important to make sure that how employees are paid is equitable across across state government.
And that system was pretty, we got notifications, the system was set up, so we get notifications. We had to deal with them or else HR would be after us for not dealing with them. And so, it made everything flow so that things were done in a timely manner.
Yeah. Cool.
Continue, please.
I think okay, so that was really, that's our project work.
I do have one.
Yeah.
Sorry, not related to a specific project, and maybe you talked about it, I was at another meeting, so I apologize for being late. How are things going in the world of turnover and employees lasting more than 30 days or a
Right.
year? We had a long conversation about that last year, so I thought it might be nice to hear, what
Yeah.
progress has been made. Maybe that's in here.
We didn't get, that's not in our particular budget. I can say that, DHR's vacancy rate right now is pretty low. We're at 3.6%. We're generally able to fill our jobs. Statewide, our vacancy rate is 9.8%. So that's improving.
Yeah.
If you look on the workforce report, page 37, table 28,
Okay.
there's a good turnover graph that you can look at. And it not, page 37, table 28.
Aaron mailed to us. So Aaron mailed us, did you mail that to the whole committee? That's just, yes, okay, so Aaron mailed us something that workforce report.
Okay.
It's also posted.
It's also posted. So tell me the table number again.
Okay, the table 28,
Table 28, okay, because,
and then page 37, if you're going by pages.
right, the
Yeah.
PDF starts with a different page number, so. Table 28 is on page 43 of 98, when the cover page is page 1. In the PDF.
Oh, in the PDFs.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Okay.
Madam Chair, you found it?
I found it.
Okay, and it was your question, so we'll just,
Yeah.
you can see, turnover and managing that is clearly an issue, something we faced more heavily recently
Yeah.
with our high in, looks like fiscal year 22, with a 15.3 vacancy rate. We're back down to 11.5 turnover. Sorry, that's different than vacancy rate. We're down to 11.5. The trends have changed in our workforce, though. We do see a lot more voluntary turnover than we used to, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this report, because it does. Oh, if you look onto the next page, I think is it voluntary here? No, it's in the words.
By department, by fiscal year. Yeah,
We've got it.
corrections is always the challenging one.
But if you move over to page table 31 and 32, it shows how the percentages break out there. So for fiscal year 24, involuntary termination is 0.9%, relatively low. Retirement 2.5%. Voluntary turnover was 7.8%. For an overall rate of 11.5. So you can see most of the turnover does come from voluntary turnover. You can see from 2022, everything is down. So retirements are down. We kind of hit, I think, one of the bubbles for us, kind of a retirement bubble, really increased in that time. We kind of went up in 21. People kind of stuck around in 20, and then we're kind of back down to more, I don't know if that's a more normal retirement rate, but the biggest factor in turnover is the voluntary turnover. The longer you can keep employees, the longer they're expected to stay. We've got,
Yeah, because we had talked about, the percentage of people that didn't make it past 30 days and then a year, I think it was, and I don't know if you have that data here or not. There's always so much data.
yes. So if you turn to table 34,
Okay.
there's separation by length of service.
Okay.
So the turnover rate for employees with less than 5 years of service is 19.1. And then once you get up to people with more than 35 years of service, then it's 17.7. So they're moving towards retirement.
Mhm.
But the first, the group that will really need, I'm not saying we need to focus on all employees and their engagement, but the first day, the first month, those are critical. And you need to engage employees right from the beginning. It's even before they get there. How do you welcome them when they get there? Are they ready? Do they have their computer there? Are they waiting a week for their computer? Is there, were they able to meet all the employees? Did they have their badge? Could they access the systems? Like all that is just the employee's general experience.
Right.
And on day, one, don't want to come off as an employer that can't even get somebody a computer if they can't work without a computer. Like that's just a bad start.
Right, exactly. Oh, I forgot you were starting today or whatever.
Right,
Yeah, that's
right. So how are you welcoming the new employee? Do they have a buddy? Like, what have you, did you do it?
It matters because they want to see how they fit in and are these going to be people that they are going to be working with? Yeah.
And I'm trying to find it. I don't know if we have anything down, if we get down to like table 35 is pretty good. Table 35 even breaks down further.
Right. So in year one, 39% of people turn over. Is that right?
No, in year one of the people who are turning over, this is the percent. So within 30 days, you get 8.9. I think that's of those
Tired.
hired, but yeah. So,
Oh, I see down below it.
yeah, so.
9% didn't make it beyond 30 days.
Right, so 74% of the voluntary terminations occur in the first 5 years of service. And nearly 40% occurred within the first year of employment. So in looking at the detailed terminations in the first year, so this is all the terminations in the first year of employment. Nearly 9% didn't make it beyond 30 days, and then 22% didn't complete 6 months, which is kind of that initial probationary period that we have in state government.
Right.
So yeah, there's definitely.
And that's got a cost because it used to be the turnover was about 2.5 times the salary of that particular position.
Yeah, I mean, it's, people put time and effort into training that employee, and then that doesn't work out. You put the time and effort into the recruitment. It's not just it's the opportunity cost that's lost.
Right. Right. So are you doing trainings with managers, or weren't you doing some things to try to reduce these numbers?
Yeah, and I think they've been, I think demographics and the economy has helped somewhat in the job market, but I think every department is working hard on it. I mean, you see from corrections who has greatly improved their retention for their employees, and they still have more to do. They still have more to improve, but you see it all over the place because, and that's what we really try to focus on, and letting people know the importance of, if you've got an employee that wants to come work here, you should be doing everything you can to make their experience successful and make them want to be a place that they want to continue to work, because the job market is such that there's other opportunities out there.
Great. It's very interesting. Thank you. Taking you a bit off course, but I know this is something that you're the one we get to talk to about.
Right. No,
So I appreciate.
No, I brought the book. I am not surprised. If you wanted to continue through our book, we just have sections about each department. I mean, each division within our department and what they do, and some statistics about that. We do have, moving down to page 13 of our budget book. We've got just a one pager that kind of talks about the work we do and by the number. So we issued 253,575 paychecks were processed. So we had classification requests for 11 For classification reviews affecting 1,187 employees. We completed 79% of our misconduct investigations within 80 days. There's a section on talent acquisition. So we had 2,589 job openings. Lots of applications. It took on an average to fill 76 days. We had 713 promotions, 1,126 new hires.
Do you have targets for some of these, like investigations completed within 80 days or less? You have a goal that's.
Right, so our
Or-
80%, so our 80 days is our goal.
Okay,
And I would say, so our goal is to complete them within 80 days. And each misconduct investigation is different, so there's not a cookie cutter. So some of them are naturally going to take longer based on the complexity or the number of people you have to interview, and also whether somebody might be, like a witness might not be available. So sometimes it's going to take a long time, and sometimes they can be quicker. So we are, and you can see the number has decreased, and that is based on our number of investigations over the past year has increased, and by, we haven't increased the number of investigators. So just by kind of, the amount of work and the productivity, we're just not going to be able to do them all quite as quick.
we've heard that from the Human Rights Commission as well, number of things that's increased, and, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's for my formal remarks on what we're doing. I
Okay.
think I've highlighted what I wanted to, but happy to take questions about anything you're seeing in the workforce report or any other questions you have for us, or we can get into the nitty gritty of the budget.
Stephen.
Very tangential, but about positions.
Mhm.
You help me understand. That's this question a couple different times in committee. I figured you're the right folks to ask.
Yeah, hopefully we can help.
Pools of positions. So Commissioner Gresham testified at one point this year already that a certain number of positions were swept back into the pool.
Right,
The budget language is clear that if anyone wanted to create positions, that it needed to be through statute, through the budgeting process. So we have two different things going here. I'm just curious if an organization, if a department needed 8 spots,
yeah.
and would they request through you or through the administration, AOA, to get 8 positions from the pool, if there's 100 positions in the pool that are no longer accounted for vacancy savings or positions that were no longer needed. So again, I view it as a Caddyshack of positions. But if somebody wanted 8 positions and can they make that request without the statutory request?
Yes,
And so, it can just, is it positions, or are the positions already assigned, like lawyer 1
right,
or custodian 3 or whatever? Or is it just like, we need 8 positions, which are nothing more than spots,
right.
and that we get to define and then budget for? Is that, can you clarify how that works?
We have a position cap. So we can't add positions unless they're authorized by the legislature, or in limited service case, the joint fiscal office, the joint fiscal committee, if they're grant funded. So, but the Secretary of Administration has the authority to move positions within state government. So one of the ways we do that, so within a department, I had a vacant position in my department and I wanted to use it for something else, I would request to reclassify the position. It would come through HR, but any person's position. We would say, okay, this person was a investigator. We want the investigator retired. We're going to use this position now for a benefits manager. So we would reclassify the position. There would be it would just kind of movement around. But if I didn't have any positions and I still had a need, so let's say I wanted to add more investigators so we could do the work faster. I could go to what would be called the position pool, where positions that were vacant across state government could be taken away from the departments, put into the pool, which is like just a hypothetical, it's not.
Caddyshack.
It's the Caddyshack, whatever, it's the Caddyshack. You put them into the pool. Once they're in the pool, they don't have any, all of their previous, whatever previously happened with it is gone. So you could repurpose that position for anything you want. And positions that are vacant for 6 months or more are actually supposed to be taken by the Secretary of Administration for that, just for that purpose, and so they can be used most efficiently in state government. Now with the, we don't necessarily go just by vacancy. If a department really needs that and is recruiting for it, we're not just going to take that position because they couldn't fill it. I mean, that's not that. I don't think that was, but if a department's just holding on to that position, then they don't need it and they don't have any intention to fill it, and they're just going to plan on using that money for something else, that would be when we would take it. And then the process would be, the agency or department could request that position, and ultimately the Secretary of Administration would approve or disapprove that position to going over there. There's a pool committee, which is Commissioner Gresham, myself, and the now Director of Operations within the Agency of Administration, Nick Kramer. So we are the position pool committee, and it's supported by the HR Director of Position Management, as well as someone on Commissioner Gresham's team.
The first request goes to Agency of Administration. The Secretary will then move it down.
The request would come to the pool committee. We would review it and make a recommendation to say, yes, seems like a good fit, a good use of something that's within the state's priorities. Yes, this is approved. Then we would make a recommendation to the Secretary to approve or not to approve.
And in the case where someone doesn't approve, it says, say that the committee does not approve, then the statute, if a bill passes and moves through the budget and positions can be added that way.
Yes. So
that would raise.
There's two parallel tracks, right?
Yeah.
There's the budget, the budgetary way through legislation, and that would raise the cap or repurpose. So the pool is just like a repurpose, so we don't have to raise the position
Like
cap.
reversion.
Yeah.
No, that's very helpful.
A reversion, yeah, it is helpful. And, but I'm wondering how often the pool committee, the budget, whatever, the position pool committee.
It depends. So typically we meet once a month.
Okay.
At the beginning of the pandemic, we had a hiring freeze. And so anytime you wanted to, a hiring freeze was not, you could fill your own position, but there was to actually recruit or get a new position or anything, we were meeting every week.
Okay.
So because there was a lot of activity and a lot of scrutiny under what we were going to be able to hire, but typically it's once a month. But folks generally have a lot of vacancies. We don't have as many requests as we maybe once did.
Great.
And I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
finish that.
Yep.
So if that committee approves moving any positions over, that department still has to budget it. And that goes through AOA as well, or goes through.
Right, if they got a position from the pool, one of the questions is, how much does it cost? And do you have the funds to pay for the position? And not only do you have your funds now, will you have your funds going forward? Are you confident in the ability to stay in the funds?
Okay.
As a part of the request for us to allocate a position from the pool, there needs to be a funding plan along with the allocating those positions.
Okay, and all of this information, I'm sure, is available on a pamphlet or something that. that
The position pool request form is available from the DHR website.
Okay.
All right.
There's a section on, yeah,
So if somebody called up, they could say, how many positions do you have available in the position pool? And
yes,
you could say.
yeah,
You know,
For more information.
no,
so you have, how many do you think you have in the position pool? Do you have?
I think 6 or 7.
Okay, so this is not, we're not talking about, we have 100
It's
positions.
not a lake, it's a puddle.
It's a puddle, okay.
It's a shell, it's a
It's a sheet puddle, okay.
But there are, I think there's some opportunities to have more positions into the pool. We've been somewhat generous, I would say. And it really is because departments really are struggling to fill those vacancies.
All right, no, thank you for that.
All right, now.
I just, this probably should be obvious to me, but what are the folks in your puddle, your Caddyshack puddle, do they appear as vacancy savings
No,
anywhere? Okay, no.
no. If they're appearing as vacancy savings somewhere, then it would be, yeah, once they're in the pool, they're not in anybody's budget.
Okay. That's, thanks, just want to make sure.
Yeah. And, so like a department that gets a lot of external funding, like looking at, just say, use the Secretary of State's, for example, they have their funding is from, people paying fees to register businesses. So if they wanted a position from the pool, we would ask them where the funding was coming from, and they would say it's coming from this special fund, and they would likely have the funds to do it, right? So if you were asking Department of Human Resources, do you have the funds? Sure, I can put it right in my internal service fund, which means that I'm going to have to spread that money across to all of the other departments next year, which from my perspective, I can get the money, but from a state government's perspective, it's still the same amount of money. We're just moving it around state government. I'm not sure if that really had anything to do with your question, Representative Blumenthal.
That's interesting.
Figuring it all out. Okay. Should we look at your ups and downs?
Sure.
Okay.
Page.
We don't need the salary, the sort of standard. Tell us what's more different than that.
One thing just about our department, we're separated into 3 different funding groups. We've got what we consider our operations budget, which is our biggest, and then
The B number for that one.
the B.
B20, B.
B is it 1120?
No, it would be like
Section in the.
106, in the budget. Everybody has a B section.
B 108.
108.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's helpful.
Yeah.
If you can stick those on there, because
Okay.
we match it up to what's in the
Yeah.
budget. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. So that, want to go through that?
Sure,
Harold or Harmony? Yeah.
I can start going through and please ask any questions that you have. And any ones I can't answer, I'm hopeful Harmony can answer. If you look at the first one, go down to current service level, current law. That's around the 4th line down. So that's what the current level is. No,
Wait.
that is.
Are you seeing?
Looking at this, it's up on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, it is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, so what?
Oh, I see. Oh, I was starting from the numbers. That's why you were talking. Right, so, okay, so that's where you were, that's where you are right now, is
Yeah,
that?
I'm looking at the far right column,
Yeah.
just to
Okay.
keep things simple. Current service level, current law. That is the summary of 2 sections. The top section that's shaded is personal services. The bottom section that's shaded is operating expenses. So personal services go up by, what is it, 852,000 and change?
Yeah,
And operating expenses go up 140,000 and change. So this just emphasizes our point that our people cost us most of the increase. Salaries and wages are up, health insurance, retirement. I won't go into the gory details on that. But overall, across all three appropriations, the employee costs are up about 8.7%. That's the driver of the 9% increase. And that includes salaries, which on average roughly have gone up about 6.4%. Health insurance has gone up more, double digits, and the retirement contribution has gone up quite a bit also.
right. And so it's interesting that the target increase was, what, 3% this year?
That's correct.
Yeah, it doesn't add up too well. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So those are the totals for the operations appropriation is what it's called. And that is, the total here is 13, at the very bottom, 13.7 million. That's the big part of our budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you want to mention something?
No, I don't think so. I'm just trying to think if there's any like big ups that they could say.
Well, let's move on to the next appropriation. That's BTHR. That's like our payroll system and that kind of thing.
8.1.
Pretty straightforward. That's up 282,000 and change, and 270,000 and change is in personnel. So very, very little operating costs. And then if you go over to benefits and wellness, the third set, that's up quite a bit. 294,000 is the total. And this is flipped a little bit. The 70, it looks like a 76, maybe 76,000 is in personnel increase, and operating increase is considerably more. That is driven by every few years, we have to negotiate a contract with a benefits consultant that helps us run our $300+ million in benefit plans. And we bid that last year, and that cost went up considerably. If you look at down below in the operating expenses, it's a line item just below the shaded part, $148,295. That's higher than it was. So as I said, if you put all three appropriations together, 8.7% is from personnel increases, and then there's pluses and minuses after that in operating.
Pretty straightforward, couple of those things. Okay, I am not seeing any questions now. And Rep. Stevens is your liaison with our
Yes.
committee. We've got, you already know that.
And
It's
we
good
met
for the
last
committee.
week.
Good.
Last week,
And now we all know more about.
like a
the
month ago.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to let us know that we haven't covered?
Let me see. No, I think I've got, I just, I wanted, especially committee members who hadn't been on this committee before, to be aware of the workforce report that has a lot of information in it. Oh, it does have, one thing that's helpful, I think, maybe helpful for you is, in the back, I'm not sure the page number, but there is a kind of a statewide leadership organizational chart. So you can see, how all the departments and agencies fit in and kind of the reporting structure there in a visual format. So that I think is something that's interesting. In the beginning of the report, it's information, a lot of information on number of employees by department, lots of information on the classified workforce, total compensation, pay, all that by department. So I think that generally, when people start getting into this report, they're really people who are interested in how government works and how it's funded, are very interested in the information in this report. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a bestseller on Amazon, but
But in this building,
in this room,
you never know these
in
days.
this room,
It's public, right? I mean,
yes, it's on our website, yes.
So you
I
can
have
go.
a constituent or two who keep telling me that we have 20,000 employees and, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to share this and this is.
We could put it on TikTok. You could do a whole presentation.
Maybe just a snippet from this presentation.
There you go. You just never know. So do you do this workforce report, is it every 2 years or every?
It's every year.
It's every year. Okay, well, it's a lot of work. So great, all very helpful information. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you. We will, committee, let's just take a quick 5-minute break and then